there. I am SF Rogers.
And I am DL Golden.
And we are the Author's Chaos. And today we have with us the talented and beautiful in our Phoenix. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It's so wonderful to be here with you guys.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a sailor at heart with salt in my veins. My husband and I have been married for 17 years, and we live on a boat. Yeah.
That's an author that lives on a boat.
Right. So what genre would you say that you write in general then?
So this has been a big crux for me to figure out what genre I'm actually writing in. So I would say it would be fantasy primarily, secondarily sci-fi, and definitely a mixture of the two. I do have some strong subplots of romance, but I would not consider this to be a capital R romance at all.
We've talked about that on lives before, how it's not specifically a romance. It's more on the fantasy side of things, because my book is the same way, where the romance is there, but it's not the main driving force.
Right. The relationship isn't the driving force of the story. Exactly.
Right.
There's a larger plot. So,
fun thing about NR, we actually met you through Your Metal Author, through JC Bryce, in a roundabout way. And we've developed this beautiful friendship where we're doing these sprints together and all this stuff. And I know Daniel's wife yesterday told me that he's kind of gotten in a slump on his second book. And I told her, I said, I think those writing sprints have helped me in my edits, because I'm not getting trapped. So what has that been like for you to find people who are interested in your story and interested in knowing more about you? What's that been like?
So for me, that has been the impetus for me to continue. I find that I am not extremely self-motivated if I don't feel like I am able to tell the story that I want to tell, and if that story is not going to resonate with others. So for me to have someone, especially like Emily, who is like, give me more, it really makes a difference for me, and it helps me continue going. That has been huge for me. And the sprinting, for some reason, it really works for me. There's something about trying to beat that clock. It's like driving somewhere with a GPS and you're like, well, this is the time to beat, that's really helped me. And I have very much so enjoyed sprinting with both of you. And I mean, we do a lot of late night sprints sometimes, so that's been awesome.
It's interesting you put it that way. It's like beating a GPS. It says this is the arrival time you're going to make, and you're determined to get that cut down by 2 or 3 minutes. And I feel like that's definitely a good metaphor for what it's like to be sprinting with other people on TikTok. It feels like you can sit there for an hour and stare at one sentence when you're doing it by yourself, but when you're watching other people type, you're like, I gotta at least get something written down here. It's phenomenal. It's been great.
Well, especially if you can see them and their hands are flying on the keyboard and you're like, oh Lord, I haven't written anything, I'm real bad. Even during sprinting, I like to edit as I go. So that's one of my faults, I guess, is that when I start a sprint, I will read over what I wrote the last time, and I'll do a little bit of tweaking, and then I'll start writing again. So my sprint counts are always really low as far as my word count, but I feel like I'm happier at the end of it, less chance of a rewrite at the end of it. So that does work for me.
So we've talked all about this stuff before, but just for the people who are joining us for the Author's Chaos here, how long have you been writing this story or writing in general?
So I was first published in 5th grade with a short story in a national magazine, teacher's magazine. And that story, it was entitled "The Dog I Thought Would Never Die Has Been Dead Almost a Year." So that is the story that I got published. But this particular story, I had a dream. Of course, it always starts with a dream, right? I had a dream in 2009, and I wrote down just like a vague idea, and I started kind of writing. I had probably gotten 5 or 10,000 words until 2014. And 2014 is when I really started piecing it together and actually realizing that I could actually publish not one, but this was going to be at least a trilogy. It expanded to that point.
Okay. That's been a long time coming.
Yes, this has been in my brain for a long time.
So tell us about it.
I have a blurb if you would like me to read that, or I can just attempt to tell you about it. But I do have a blurb here. All right. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On the planet Zalta, an elite shape-shifting and skin-walking brotherhood of warriors known as the Krygers stands as the guardians of divine equilibrium. Newly transitioned to their ranks, Vaern is destined as the Veildor to protect the Dravan, their revered god king. However, when a malevolent prophecy is activated and causes Vaern to fail in his purpose, Vaern is ensnared in a web of failure and doubt. Adrift in a sea of desolation, he stumbles upon a portal, hurling him into an ancient land steeped in superstition and wonder. Mistaken as a demigod, Vaern treads a path riddled with unforeseen trials and misadventures. Each step draws him closer to his ultimate test, a trial that will test his mettle, his very existence. As shadows of betrayal and secrets unveiled threaten to corrode his loyalty, Vaern stands on the precipice of a harrowing choice. Will he be able to return to Zalta and quell the encroaching darkness, or succumb to the unveiled truth that compel him to destroy the very one he was sworn to protect? In a riveting tale of transformation and atonement, where forgiveness dangles by a fragile thread, join Vaern on a journey that traverses time and space, tests convictions, and unearths the potent essence of sacrifice. In a universe where some sins cannot be forgiven, destiny hangs in the balance, and Vaern's choices will reverberate across worlds.
This one is going to make me stop writing blurbs.
Hey, so if I send you my whole book, will you write my blurb, please? You just write it for all of us, okay? I'll pay you.
Well, I took a rough idea, and it's basically just the first 25% of the book. That's the first 25% of the book.
Okay. I mean, I will take that piece of information and I will tuck that away.
I've written a blurb on the back of my book, and it is not that good. I promise. That's phenomenal, and it's incredible that you're able to capture that much of your story in just that fewer words. I have a hard time breaking mine down like that.
Yeah, 25%. Just get yourself to the inciting incident, basically, and into Act 2, and that's your blurb.
Well, I will take that and tuck that away.
So you are not published as of yet, correct?
No.
So you are planning on going self-published or traditionally published here?
Yes, I am going to do self-published because I would like to maintain creative control of my work, and I am not sure how a traditionally published house, whether or not they would want this work. I don't want to have to go through querying and those kind of things. But mainly, I'm not sure how they would market it. And I feel like that may dissuade some readers from experiencing the story. So that is the reason why I want to go self-published.
Yeah. We've talked to a lot of people that don't want to give up that creative control for traditionally published stuff. I mean, we've talked to a few traditionally published authors.
And Yeah, and they talk about, I think querying is the scariest thing that I've ever heard of ever, because I hate rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be real. I do not want to open my email and have 15 emails. I'm sorry, you're not good enough. I would
Right.
die.
And it might even, they might not have even read your email, or it might be something that they don't like in your query letter. They might not have even gotten to your manuscript.
Right.
I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people we've talked to are like, yeah, we'll just stay self-published because then you maintain that creative control. You're in charge of how you market it. You're in charge of whether it fails or not. And so
Right.
it's a lot more in your hands.
Right. Right. I've
Right.
seen a lot of people be like, well, you have to market it by yourself. And I think as authors in general, traditional or self-published, we all have to market that at some point, right? Like, yes, a traditionally published house will have better PR people and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's still going to come down to, like, can you market yourself in a way that sells your books?
Right. Exactly.
So, as far as marketing your book goes, how have you been going about marketing before getting published here? What is your main form of that?
So my main format is TikTok. I also have an Instagram and a Facebook account. However, my main format is TikTok. I haven't quite figured out the marketing piece yet because I am still struggling a little bit with the genre. And even this last week, I have heard of two other genres that are kind of niched down. One is Gothic fantasy. And I was like, I don't even know what that is, because what's the difference between Gothic fantasy and grimdark, right? Like, so where's the difference? And then Dying World sci-fi. So I am trying to figure out exactly how to market this by locating my ideal reader. And I think that is going to be the true test, is who is your ideal reader, and that would make it the easiest to be able to niche down and market directly to them.
Well, I think Daniel, it was just a couple of days ago that Daniel had a commenter on TikTok who was like, sounds like lit RPG. And he was like, wait a second. What? What was that you just said? Like, what was that?
I had never heard of the genre lit RPG, and they're like, yeah, it's just a story inspired by video game elements, and it's a fantasy sci-fi. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what my book is. But nowhere online are you going to look, and it's just going to tell you that, you know.
Right.
And so having that support community on TikTok for that has been great. And believe me, I understand narrowing it down to one genre is tough.
It is very hard. Yes.
So you have told us, we have heard you read multiple sections of Vaern, and we are in love with it. We love it. It's amazing. But if you wanted to, I guess we have what is your current release about. You read us your blurb. If you want to tell us about a little bit about your main character or the place where it takes, like, your story takes place.
Well, again, I can tell you about the first 25% because I don't want to release the information yet about where they actually go and what happens after he goes through the portal. But the planet of Zalta is a mixture of Pandora and Earth. Like, it's a mixture of that. They do not have seasons. Like, it is a utopia all of the time. And the Dravan is symbiotic to the planet.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Like, teasing things.
Right.
We've heard bits and pieces and I'm like, dang it.
But that's the seeding you have to do without you kind of jumping around your main plot points to try and not spoil stuff. That's hard to do.
Yeah, it is hard to do. And especially since you guys have heard the beginning of the prologue, so you actually know who the Dravan is. And now hearing that he is symbiotic to the planet is like, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So we've heard so much about this. It sounds phenomenal. My wife is gnashing at the bit to try and get this book in her hands. But when do you think that's going to happen? When are we going to see a paperback or Kindle version that we can read?
So I am still working on drafting Vaern right now. I will be going out to a very, very limited round of betas prior to, well, around in maybe end of October, a very limited number of betas. And then doing edits on that in November. I am scheduled to have my manuscript to a developmental editor, C.M. Taylor, on TikTok. She is phenomenal. If you're not following her, you need to. So C.M. Taylor will receive my manuscript on December 4th, and then I have a month to wait for her to do her developmental edits, and then I will receive that back. So we are looking at possibly late spring, because I will be doing another round of betas in the spring, and then ARCs as well. So we're looking at late spring for publication of book 1. I do want to let you know that hope is not lost, because book 2 is already mostly written. And so while book 1 is at the developmental editors, I will be furthering book 2. And then I'm hoping to do somewhat of a rapid release for the fantasy genre, at least. Within 3 or 4 months of each other, I am hoping to do a rapid release of book 2, because it is very close to being finished as well.
I mean, as someone who is probably going to have a year between releases on books, that is extremely admirable.
Well, no, that's only because, okay, so the story is that book 2 used to be book 1, and Vaern, this book, which all this is it's a notebook, but I wanted to try out my cover, and so I just went and got a notebook on this. This is a matte finish, so the cover will actually be glossy, because I've realized that the colors don't show up right on the matte finish, so it will look nicer than this. But Vaern is the book that was never supposed to happen. It is a prequel. It is an origin story. It's an origin story for the things that happen in book 2. So I realized that there was just too much backstory, too much exposition, and that I needed to add an entirely other book, which was just supposed to be a novella, and now it has expanded. And you guys are the first to hear this, but I think that I am going to be publishing a novella between book 1 and book 2. And this novella will be following Nasig, or the Sophos, which you guys have seen pictures of her, and we'll be telling a story about her life, a more in-depth story where she's the main character.
So you're really busy.
Yes. Really busy.
That's great, though. I mean, I am working on a direct sequel for mine, and it's taking me some time because I'm going back and fixing my original draft now, trying to make it a little prettier than it was when I originally released it. But to have another one in the chamber and another thought about writing a novella in between, that's a lot.
That's brilliant.
Well, remember, I've been working on this since 2009. This has been marinating, and then I really started putting the pedal to the metal. I actually participated in NaNoWriMo in 2014 and won, wrote 50,000 words during the month of November in 2014. So the fact that, when I came into this and decided that I was going to finally give it my all and really, really focus on this, I already had 100,000 words across 2 books. Okay. I only had 8,000 words in Vaern, but I had over 100,000 words to span the 2 books. So, and now Vaern has gone from 8,000 to over 35,000. So I was like, yeah, this isn't going to be short. And I'm just barely in Act 2.
Well,
You haven't even hit the mad point.
To be tell your story. So, I mean,
Right.
I definitely understand that. I think about 30,000 in Odyssey stuff. So, it's
Yeah.
My book has grown in edits from 96,000 words to 98,000 words.
You're going to hit that 100,000.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going, yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be 100,000.
Mine's going to be a chunky boy.
Hey,
chunky boy.
So we are coming up on the last 10 minutes or so here. We always ask, what is your favorite piece of writing advice that you have gotten from like TikTok or from anybody? What is your favorite piece of writing advice you can give out?
Okay. I thought long and hard about this, and here it is. Write the story you want to read. But that's the advice that you always hear. But in the addition to, tell the story that your character needs to have told. So what is the story at the crux of who they are as a person, as a character? What is it that made them that way? And stay true to that. I mean, SF Rogers and I yesterday, we were talking about having one question that is asked throughout your book. You have this one question that you have to ask it and answer it in every chapter. And that is how you maintain continuity throughout your work. But it is, don't write for the market. Don't just throw a bunch of tropes in there just to have tropes in there. Make sure that you are staying true to the character's voice, and also the story that you set out to tell. And I will tell you that, like, when I first started telling the story of Vaern, he was not the same person that he is now. And his experiences have shaped his reactions. So you have to think about the backstory in order to go, in order for it not to feel contrived, is what I'm trying to say. So would this character do this one thing based on the backstory that they have lived so far? And if the answer is no, then they have to stay true. Otherwise, you can't contrive the behavior just to meet certain plot points. So that's the best writing advice that I have received, and it has transformed my flow. It has made, I went through about a month of writer's block a couple of months ago. Well, actually, just 1 month ago. And I'm just now coming out of that because I was trying to make this into something that would be more palpable to a more diverse audience. Mainly, I was trying to take more of the romance out. And I realized that those little kernels just sprinkled in, those little kernels make a huge difference at the end of the book. And he would not be where he is in the end of the book if I took them out completely. So I was trying to plot instead of allow him to drive the story the way that the story was originally meant to go.
What I would call pansters. He's having to plot more with the second book, but like my characters definitely drove my story. And I had several moments where I reached out to like him or to Your Metal Author, to see Britt, and I was like, I did not know that this character was going to do this. And they're like, how did you know? Well, I just didn't know. I just didn't know it was going to happen.
You don't know.
I'm floored. This is not okay. I came out of my office one time just crying, and my husband was like, you're writing the characters. Like, how do you not know he's going to react like this? And I'm like, he wasn't supposed to be this evil. Like, he's evil, but come on. So I love the piece of advice to like tell the story the way that the character needs it told.
Yeah. I think stories have to flow naturally and have to breathe. And it's very easy to put a character on a rail and push them through and say, here's point A, here's point B, here's point C. You have to do exactly what you need to do to get to the end here. But if you're not allowing for natural character growth, natural development, you end up with this stale, very hard to get through, very hard to relate to character. And so without real world interactions, without real world growth, characters just are not interesting because people can't relate to them. And so I completely agree. Characters have to just go through the arcs they need to go through in order to become the people that are the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Or the worst.
Or the worst.
Best or the worst.
Depending on how they end, I suppose.
Right.
I mean, so we're right here at the end. Where can everyone find you across social media so that we can get people bombarding your pages? Where can they find you?
So on TikTok, my TikTok handle is NRPhoenixAuthor, all one word. On Instagram, it is also NRPhoenixAuthor. My website is phoenixreimagined.com/NRPhoenix. And Facebook is also NRPhoenixAuthor. So I've tried to stay very consistent with that.
You have a newsletter on your website.
I do have a newsletter. It comes out on the 15th of the month.
It is so good. Like, I got the newsletter. I love it. Your wife needs to sign up for the newsletter.
We have to write a newsletter. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's, as always, it's been a blast talking to you.
We are so, like, and I'll say it, we're so blessed to, like, have met the authors that we've met and, like, all of the support that we've gotten on TikTok. And, like, we're grateful that you wanted to come talk to us. When we got your email, it was like, deal, we gotta, like, she has to come on.
Right, at least we can say, hey, we were the first to talk to her before you're massively famous.
Yeah, because once you're massively famous, you just forget about us. It's fine.
No, I will not forget about you. Oh my goodness. That is not happening. I mean, you have my cell phone number.
True.
I'm not going to forget about you.
So I am Rogers. I don't have a book yet. Be prepared. I'm working on covers until I can save for my pretty cover. Execration of Autumn will be out soon.
And my book, Origins, I am D.L. Golden. Origins is available on Amazon. I have a physical copy and everything here. So it is available on Amazon from the link in the link tree on my TikTok, or you can find it at Origins by D.L. Golden on Amazon. So
thank you guys so much. Have a great day.